Charles Dickens, Civil War Perspective. Presented by Andrew Anderson, Colin Brixey, Kathleen Lewis, and Tanya Miranda. Narration by Tanya Miranda. Introduction. Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens, full name, Charles John Huffam Dickens, born February 7, 1812, Portsmouth, Hampshire, England, died June 9, 1870, Gad's Hill, near Chatham, Kent. Charles Dickens was a prominent English novelist, generally considered the greatest of the Victorian era. Dickens enjoyed a wider popularity across the globe than had any previous author during his lifetime, thanks in part to the technological innovations of the 19th century. The main establishing factor of his fame can be attributed to his many relatable characters and scenarios at the time. His many volumes include such works as Our Mutual Friend, A Tale of Two Cities, Bleak House, David Copperfield, Great Expectations, Oliver Twist, and of course, A Christmas Carol. How did Charles Dickens understand the Civil War? Over the years, Charles Dickens made it known that he was against slavery and felt the treatment of black people in America was deplorable. He would denounce the South on their barbaric behavior and physical treatment of African Americans. Even so, Dickens felt that the real reasons for the war were nothing to do with the abolishment of slavery. He accused the North of being liars and grew to despise them because he did not believe that they were truly concerned about the treatment of slaves. He believed that the war was about tariffs, that they were being charged to the South. His assessment led him to change his opinion of abolitionists and became a Southern sympathizer. He maintained until the end of the war that the North would not spend the money to win the war and that eventually both sides would find middle ground to end it. After the war, Dickens felt strongly that England should have intervened early on and dissolved the Union to end the war. How did Dickens use his understanding of the Civil War to support his agenda? In regards to Dickens's agenda, there are two aspects to tackle to fully understand his mindset. There is the idea that using his celebrity to inform his readers of the truth behind the American Civil War would expose the fallacy behind the slavery issue. This would make sense because the majority of people in Britain were already opposed to the business of slavery, and so perhaps Dickens's goal, by way of literary vindictiveness, was to show his readers that the United States was not as advanced, competent, or philanthropic as the governments of Europe. The other aspect was that Dickens knew the scandal of the American Civil War, for all of its barbarity, was in the end a wonderful way of selling magazines. Compare how Americans saw the conflict and how Charles Dickens saw it. What is the significance of any similarities or differences? For Americans on either side, it was a consistent battle of wills over the issues that meant a great deal. For the North, it was about the abolition of slavery and the design and desire to keep the United States as one cohesive union. Abraham Lincoln wanted the precepts of the Founding Fathers to remain a beacon for the world, to showcase how democracy and the rights of a country's citizens, slave or freeborn, were of utmost importance. For the Confederate South, those said freedoms included the right to own slaves, who were in the estimation not people. The South had maintained that slavery was a justifiable and ultimately crucial necessity to maintaining the free way of life and commerce in the United States. For Charles Dickens, despite how he may have felt personally about the issue of slavery or of the continued rights of the United States, a country he held seemingly much distaste for, he was a businessman and journalist. His readers and their opinions could be swayed through his words, and in this way he could affect the masses of England to his purpose, reporting the news of the U.S. conflict through rhetoric and opinion. Perhaps then the best way to sum up the feelings of Charles Dickens regarding the war is expressed in All the Year Round in 1861. He says, "A war of tariffs, slavery as its cause, being a false issue and a northern pretext." To Dickens, and by some extent his readers, they saw the war as an attempt for the United States to mask its true goal behind philanthropy. Did Charles Dickens's opinions change over time? Well, Dickens held many opinions during and after the war, but according to Edgar Johnson, his biographer, he said that Charles Dickens had no sympathy with either side. But this evaluation is missing quite a lot. Being the editor of one of the most popular British weekly magazines, all the year round, and living in the times when England's audience developed a hostile debate about the American Civil War, it was hard for him to stay neutral. After his first visit to the United States in 1842, he had developed a strong, open aversion to American society, which prejudiced his feelings toward America for the rest of his life. After secession for the first year, he was pro-Northern policy. However, in late 1861, after reading James Spence, he switched to a pro-South position and argued that moral tariff had served the last threads which bound North and South together. Overall, he insisted the Civil War was fought for economic reasons, but some say this thought might have been rooted by his personal experience, as he took his unpaid royalties to heart. He also depended on all the year round for his main income. Therefore, he had to take into consideration his readers' concerns to secure the sales. Overall, Dickens was biased against Americans, and this diminished his value as a precise and impartial reporter on the Civil War. Does this exercise help us understand the Civil War better, and how? Yes, researching someone as prolific as Charles Dickens helps to bring perspective to how those outside of America perceive the Civil War. The ease of changing sides based on an article and one's own fiscal situation was very enlightening. This has been a Civil War perspective on Charles Dickens. Thank you.